Good evening. This is the Citation and Quotation Conventions video, a video guide to quoting outside resources. In this video, you're going to see a lot of the rules for punctuation, for citation, for addressing works and addressing other people's words when you use them. This video does not cover every single rule that you need to know for quoting experts and giving them proper credit. However, this video will give you the basics that you will use for your citation assignment in your Week 5 Citation and Plagiarism unit. So first off, you need to know this information. Yes, these rules are necessary. And the second bullet point says, the reality, the more you know, the faster you're going to compose. If you're having to go to a resource book for every sentence when you're quoting someone else, it's going to slow you down. So it's good to try to memorize some of these rules. And it should be helpful, as the third bullet point says, these rules follow patterns. And hopefully at the end of this video you'll be able to see some of the basic patterns for when you're using someone else's words and giving them proper credit. However, Google is a wonderful tool. If you don't know a rule, feel free to look it up. Oftentimes I type in sentences following a certain punctuation style to see if I can find other sentences that are imitating that punctuation style in Google. But you have a resource. You have paid good money for it. It is the Everyday Writer, and on pages 211 to 219 you can have that resource open. It'll give you all of the things you need to know about punctuation, quotation marks, citation, and any other thing you need to know about giving someone else credit so you do not commit the act of plagiarism. Alright, let's get into some of the basics. First, when you are using someone else's words, the most common form of citation is the parenthetical citation. You are going to put a parenthesis with the author's last name at the end of the sentence. If it's a book, you will include the page number, and the period goes outside of the parentheses at the end of the sentence. For every single time you use one of these, the parenthetical citation is at the end of the sentence. If you mention the author's name within the sentence, it is not necessary to put the parenthetical with the author's name. That first example is a book, so it is necessary to put the page number. However, the second sentence by Christopher Wolfe, or quoting Christopher Wolfe, does not need any parenthetical citation because his name is mentioned in the sentence, and if you go to a works cited page, you can just look for Christopher Wolfe, Wolfe is his last name, to understand where we drew this quote from. Also notice in the second sentence, we've established Mr. Wolfe's qualifications. He is the chair of the Anti-Cyber Hate Committee of the Anti-Defamation League. And it's good whenever you quote someone to kind of give a little heads up to the audience as to why is this person a reliable resource that you're using. Alright, question marks and exclamation points. If the question mark or exclamation point is part of the words that you're quoting, you put it within the quotation marks. Please refer to the last sentence. Mr. Butler posed that question that we're quoting. His question mark goes with his sentence. You're going to notice a double punctuation. After I put the parenthetical citation with Mr. Butler's name, I put a period. If you look up in the first two examples, these are just questions that we are asking in the text, the writer is asking, and they are not part of what's being quoted. So as you see, the question mark falls after the parenthetical citation. Adding words to quotations. First of all, be very, very careful. Every time you alter a quotation, you do not, or you never alter the intended meaning of the sentence from the author's intended meaning, the original meaning. So if you add words to quotations, be very careful you don't change the original meaning. However, if you're referring to something, you're quoting something that's unclear and you need to add words, you do that in brackets. All right. Sometimes it says, like sometimes there's pronouns. For example, this one, the pronoun they, that might be unclear. So you had to bracket the other team just to clarify it. But as it says, you just don't ever change the intended meaning that the author wanted. Omitting words. Again, please be very wary of ever changing a quote, but if you do, for the sake of clarity, take out words, you use an ellipsis. However, don't take out words that change the original meaning of the sentence. All right, punctuation with quotes. Use a comma to introduce a quotation after the standard dialogue tag, a brief introductory phrase, or a dependent clause. And this is one of those where I'm going to refer you to the everyday writer. There are many examples that kind of clarify this. A misplaced comma is not the end of the world. However, in certain documents, like your resumes and such, you want to make sure that is very tight and you don't make that error. If you put commas and periods within quotation marks, you do that except when a parenthetical reference follows. Colons and semicolons are outside of closed quotation marks. All right, if you ever refer to a work in a text and it's a shorter work, such as a short poem, story, chapter of a book, article in a magazine or newspaper, you put all of those in quotation marks. However, if it's a longer work, title of an epic poem or book-length poem, novel, complete book, magazine, newspaper, you italicize those. This is important. If you're referring to a work and your audience is wondering, well, what type of work is this? What's the credibility of this source that the person is quoting? It helps to signal it with these two markers, either italics or quotation marks. All right, a works cited page. This is very important. This is where you acknowledge all of the people that you made reference to in your paper or any work that you're working on. You always begin your works cited page on a separate page at the end. You need some of the same, just the same formatting that you would use for the rest of your paper. You don't italicize it. Double space all citations. You do an indentation. You indent the second and subsequent lines of citations by a ½ inch to create what's called a hanging indent. And if you're quoting an article from a larger anthology, you want to put the page numbers. Take a look at this sample. All right, and honestly, I always look up sample works cited page to make sure that I'm formatting it correctly. This is one, as someone who's been teaching English for 15 years, I do not have memorized. Okay, I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any questions or concerns, you know where to contact me.